There's a photograph from 1997, a fundraiser in Manhattan. 40 of the most powerful investors in America standing in a ballroom. But in the corner of that photograph, partially cut off by the frame, there's a man no one in that room had heard of. No family money, no connections, no invitation. He talked his way in. 14 months later, half the men in that photograph were working for him. Not a single one understood how it happened. This isn't a story about money. It's about something being used on you right now in ways that would disturb you if you could see them clearly. In 2019, one of his former partners sat down with a journalist for 3 hours. That interview was never published. But the transcript circulated, and it described 5 principles this man used, not as business tactics, but as a psychological operating system for controlling how people think. The first principle the partner described was the simplest. He called it the fog. Think about your own life. When you walk into a job interview, what do they know about you? Everything. Your resume, your LinkedIn, your salary expectations, which you told the recruiter before you sat down. You gave away every piece of leverage before the game started. This man did the opposite. In negotiations, he answered every question without giving a real answer. He'd nod at proposals without agreeing. He'd pause so long that the other person would fill the silence with concessions they hadn't planned to make. Your brain can't handle uncertainty about another person. It defaults to caution. You give more. You ask for less. You leave feeling like you made a choice when you just reacted to discomfort. His partner said something I haven't forgotten. Everyone who dealt with him felt like they won. That's how you know they lost. The second principle was darker. The partner called it the gift. A tech CEO, call him David, was struggling to close a deal with a major retailer. One morning, David gets an email from the man. Just says, "I spoke to someone useful to you. He'll call Thursday." Thursday comes. The retailer's chief purchasing officer calls. The deal closes in 2 weeks. David told everyone this man was the most generous person he'd ever met. But the man had dinner with that purchasing officer 3 weeks earlier. He engineered the entire connection, not for David's benefit, because 8 months later, when he needed David's vote on a board decision worth $400 million, David voted without being asked. No threat, no favor called in. David believed he was voting on the merits. That's what made it perfect. The best manipulation doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like your own good judgment. The ultra-wealthy don't give favors. They install invisible invoices. The recipients never see the bill. They just keep paying. The third principle will feel uncomfortable because it might explain something about your life you haven't been able to name. The partner called it the board. His words were, "Most people think they're playing the same game as the people above them. They're not. They're playing a game built to keep them where they are." The tax code doesn't treat your salary the same as asset growth. You pay a higher effective rate on your paycheck than a billionaire pays on a portfolio worth more than your entire town. Financial instruments that multiply wealth at scale, carried interest, opportunity zones, installment sales, don't exist in any textbook you were given. You're not losing because you're doing something wrong. You're losing because the board was designed before you were born. And the people who designed it have no interest in you noticing the tilt. The fourth principle operates at the largest scale. The partner called it the frame. Every public decision this man made, a donation, a policy stance, a partnership, was the last step in a sequence that started months earlier. Before the announcement came the narrative. Before the narrative came the framing. Before the framing came a team whose only job was to control the angle. The donation wasn't charity. It was reputation infrastructure. The policy stance wasn't conviction. It was market positioning. The interview, the keynote, the book endorsement, none of it was spontaneous. Every piece was sequenced. You consumed it, not because you're gullible, because the architecture was invisible. You formed an opinion, and it felt like yours. The best frame doesn't feel like a frame. It feels like seeing clearly. The fifth principle brought him into that ballroom in 1997 with nothing and walked him out, owning the room. The partner called it the wait. That night, 40 investors. 39 spent the evening networking, pitching, competing for attention. He stood in a corner, didn't approach anyone, listened more than he spoke. Left after 90 minutes without exchanging a single business card. Within a week, 11 of the 39 had called the event organizer, asking who he was. In a world where everyone is performing, the person who withholds becomes the most valuable thing in the room. Your brain assigns value to scarcity. The less available something is, the more you want it. He didn't network. He made himself the person everyone else wanted to reach. Within a year, he had access to every fund in that room. Not because he asked, because they came to him. 5 principles: the fog, the gift, the board, the frame, the weight. Separately, they're strategies. Together, they're an operating system used by the most powerful people alive. But here's what should keep you up tonight. These principles don't stay in boardrooms. The platform giving you free tools, the gift, the career advice you were raised on, the board, the news you trust, the frame, the influencer who posts rarely, the weight, the company that hides its pricing, the fog. You've been inside these systems your entire life. They work because they're invisible. They stop working the moment you name them. The man from 1997 didn't have more money than anyone in that room. He had more sight. He could see the strings because he'd spent years studying how they worked. Once you see them, they lose their power. The people who built these systems left the playbook wide open. It's in the books no one reads, the history no one studies, the patterns no one wants to confront, because recognizing the game is the first step to playing a different one.